join me in saluting the flag of our great nation. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody remain standing for a moment of silence for our troops, their families, all our first responders, and Kenny O'Donnell, who was our basketball rec personnel and during the summertime that passed away since our last meeting. Thank you. Our first order of business, because we have a local police department here, and they have to get back on patrol, so get them done and out of here. But we're swearing in a new police officer tonight, Kevin Poppert, and I'm going to hand it over to the chief to explain why we are hiring.
Good evening, everyone. With the recent retirement of Captain Thomas Cox, we were able to fill the vacancy with Kevin Poppert. I'm just going to give you a little history on Kevin. Kevin Poppert, the son of Edward and Dolores, was born and raised in Belmar, along with his older sister Julie and his brother Brian, who is currently a sergeant with the Belmar Police Department. Kevin attended St. Rose Grammar and St. Rose High School, graduating in 2015. Kevin then attended Rutgers University, where he earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and minors in sociology and psychology in 2019. In 2017, Kevin was hired by the Borough of Belmar as a Class 1 Special Law Enforcement Officer after completing training at the Monmouth County Police Academy. In 2020, Kevin attended the Ocean County Police Academy for the position of Class 2 Special Law Enforcement Officer. Just a little side note on that, that was during COVID, so the academy got extended, what, 2 months? 2 months. In March of 2021, Kevin was assigned as Belmar Elementary School Security Officer, where he's finishing out the remainder of the school year. Special Officer Kevin Poppert has satisfied all the requirements pursuant to the New Jersey Civil Service testing procedures and the established criteria pursuant to the Belmar Ordinance 5-2.1 to be appointed as patrolman of the Belmar Police Department. It is my recommendation, Mayor Walsifer and Council, that Special Officer Kevin Poppert be appointed as patrolman to the Belmar Police Department.
Thank you, Chief. April, if you could read the resolution, and we'll vote on it before we swear them in.
Sure. Can I have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-144, resolution appointing a patrolman of the Belmar Police Department?
I'll make the resolution.
Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Lund?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer?
Yes. Everybody can join me up at the dais. Swear in our new patrolman.
Kevin, if you and your family would come up to the center, please.
I, Kevin Poppert,
I, Kevin Poppert,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and in this state,
and in the state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties as
all the duties as
patrolman for the Borough of Belmar Police Department
patrolman for the Borough of Belmar Police Department
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
All right.
Welcome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Get to work.
And we have one more presentation tonight. We have an officer that has been with us in Belmar for 50 years. So, Tony Trevino, if you would come up.
You want to stay here? They don't want to get up. You're welcome. Come on. Stand.
Just on a personal note, when I started here back in 1998 as a Class 1 police officer walking the mean Jersey Shore, Tony Trevino was my mentor, was my supervisor, taught me how to find a lot of shark teeth on the beachfront, how to cool off when you needed to cool off, and how to do the job on the beachfront when you needed to do the job. So just wanted to throw my little tidbit in there. The Borough of Belmar Resolution recognizing Anthony Tony Trevino for 50 years of dedicated service to the Belmar Police Department. Whereas Tony Anthony Trevino was admitted to the Belmar Police Department in 1971. And whereas Tony has held the position of Class 1 police officer, and during his tenure as a Class 1 police officer has demonstrated a high degree of leadership skills and community spirit. And whereas, as a special police officer, has been actively involved with the policing the community in the summer months and as a crossing guard during the year. And whereas Tony has walked millions of miles on the sandy beaches of Belmar, instructing, mentoring, and training many officers who have gone on to be police officers across the United States. And whereas the Mayor and Council wish to officially recognize and congratulate Tony, and be it further resolved by the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Belmar that we wish and thank Tony on his commitment of 50 years for dedicated service to the Borough of Belmar and its residents. Would you like to say anything?
Just, thank you all the support I've been getting from, the fellow officers. Last year, everybody kept saying, oh, come on, this summer, meaning last summer, it's going to be your 50th summer. Boy, they should do something, it's going to be your 50th summer. I said, you don't know if I'm going to make it. You don't know what's going to happen. So sure enough, I get injured, and I didn't work last summer. So, but I appreciate the chief had sent me a notice congratulating me, because apparently Paylocity must have known. He said June 1st was his 50th anniversary. Thank you all.
Time. Can everybody from the Belmar Police Department come back up here? We're going to take a picture with Tony and Kevin, please. Maybe 3 minutes. We're in the center. Maybe another white shirt on the other side.
We're heavy on this side. Some more people this side.
More people on that side?
There you go.
Get it together, guys. Come on. Eventually, you're going to be in.
Just take a moment and let everybody leave who doesn't want to hear the rest of the Or should we already? Yeah. All right, the next thing that we have tonight is we have our budget hearing and public comment on our budget. So we have our finance team here, and they're going to talk about our budget a little bit. So, council wants to sit down. I think they have a seat.
Good afternoon, everyone. For you guys that don't know me, my name is Ricardo Llanos. I am the Borough Chief Financial Officer, and we're here together to talk about the 2021 budget. As we all know, we're coming off a challenging year here in Belmar due to COVID. With that being said, I'm pleased to announce that under the direction of the Mayor, Borough Council, and the Business Administrator, we're coming in without an increase to the local municipal tax rate. As you can see here, the local municipal tax rate is remaining still at 0.48 up. One thing to note here, if you see here, 2/3 or 65 cents of every dollar, every tax dollar collected supports other entities. And I'm going to show you a breakdown. You're looking at the estimated tax levy for 2021. As you can see here, 1/3 of that pie goes into the municipal purpose tax. What is that money, how is that allocated, you may Finance. Well, as you can see here, public safety makes up 22% of that overall budget. Public works makes 15% of the overall budget. Pension 7%, debt service 11%, and insurance 14%. These are the revenues to support our 2021 budget. 21% come from the local revenues. These include fees, permits, concessions, and licenses. 45% of that revenue comes from you guys, the taxpayers, at $8.3 million. And 14% comes from surplus at $2.5 million. One thing is building a budget. We could sit down and discuss how the budget is being built. But another thing is the managing of that budget. And I gotta give kudos to my team. We do a great job reviewing every expenditure. We look through each expenditure with a fine-tooth comb, and we're always trying to save money where we can. Thanks to that, we were able to generate surplus, so we don't have an increase in the municipal tax rate. This budget process started about 7 months ago in December. Due to all the hard work of the mayor, the council, and the borough administrator, this budget is presented with a 0 municipal tax increase. Thanks for all your support, guys.
All right, any of the council have questions for our financial team? Anybody have questions on our financial? Bob, is there anything that you want to add before we open it up to questions for the?
No, I'll just reiterate that I think Rick and his team did a great job in the budget. This is relatively our 3rd year in a row of having a flat tax rate, or near flat tax rate. I think we're running a fine administration of the budget.
All right, well, we have the whole team here. I'm going to open up questions from the public for our financial team. And this will be the public hearing on the budget. So, if we have to do anything, we just open it up.
Just if anyone wants to comment on the budget, please come to the microphone and state your name and address.
Yes, Mr. Bofusco.
Good evening, everyone. Gerald Buckafusco, 409 Fifth Avenue in Belmar. I have a few comments, and before I do that, I want to congratulate you for actually posting something and doing a presentation. I appreciate it, and I think most of the residents will appreciate it. It's the first time I've seen anything like that in a while for Belmar. What I've done is I've also looked at the budget, and because I find it easier to look at pictures sometimes, I did some graphs which I'd like to share with you, if you don't mind. And this will help explain. I'll give a bunch to the council. Anybody needs one, I have one here. Okay, my first issue always has to do with transparency. And like I said, I'm glad that we got some transparency tonight in the budget, but I also think that more can be done because it's a tremendous opportunity for the council to tell the residents some things about what's going on. And I think also a budget narrative would also be a good thing to work on in the future. Because there are questions that are related to the budget, but we don't have any answers to. For example, what's the vision of the council? What are the goals of the administration? And how does this budget that's being passed, work towards achieving any of those goals, right? Are the problems in the future going to be addressed in a proactive manner or more in a reactive manner? Other questions that I think come up are things like, is there a long-term strategic plan that is being funded by the budget? In other words, how are we going to handle our decaying infrastructure? We've heard through the years, we have issues with storm drains, with water lines, with sanitary sewer lines. These things are not going away. What's the plan to address those issues and how much it's going to cost? We don't know that, how those improvements are going to be funded. So I think, unfortunately, it was a lost opportunity for you to not explain at least a little bit about how those things are going to happen. There's also information on more detailed areas which I think the public has the right to know, which is not included in the budget, but I think would be helpful for everyone in understanding the budget. For example, how many full-time and part-time employees are being budgeted for in the 2021 budget? And how does this compare to 2020?
I know it's less than 2020 because we can't find the help, but anybody have that number? That we have a budget for? Each department is different, so I don't have the total number.
No, but I can get it, we can get it for you, but there's no more budgeted than the prior year. I mean, we've held steady with, we have 25 police officers as of today, full-time. We don't have 25 full-time, and there's been no change at all in the front office. So.
He's asking about the part-time help that we have
Part-time help?
for the summer.
I would say it's down because we can't get people to work.
Yeah.
It's budgeted for because we were expecting the same to run everything, but it's definitely down. But I can get you exact numbers if you would like.
Yeah, I think that's something that we should know regularly. And again, public information, I'd be curious to know, what you're using to get those numbers so that I can request them periodically through the year. The other question I have is, in the posting that was put in the Coast Star, there is a line on each area which says total number of employees. And when I looked at the statute, it does say that line should be completed. So the other question I have is, why wasn't that line, total numbers of employees included? It had it for I guess the current fund, it had it for the water sewer utility, it had it for the beach utility, and the parking utility. But I've seen it in other municipalities when they've posted their budget, but ours doesn't have that. You know why that is?
That could have been an oversight on my behalf.
Okay. So I think not to beat a dead horse, that would be the type of information that I think should regularly go along with the budget. How many employees are we budgeting for? How many do we have? Are there any vacant positions? Are there any new positions coming up? I think that would be something that would be nice to have.
I can tell you, Mr. Bonifusco, that and DPW can tell you, we were down 5 employees that we haven't replaced. We're in the process of replacing them now, based on the need. The chief just replaced the 25th person in the police department, and we are down on specials because of COVID in the academies, but we've added no new positions in the borough. We're conscious about who we do hire based on what the budget concerns are, so we strategically look with the finance team to find out who we're actually going to hire and when we can hire them to make sure that it's not a strained budget. And in order to give the services that the Belmar residents are expect.
Right, but no one can tell me tonight how many employees we have in the borough.
Well, we can get that for you.
Right now, we don't know that.
Well, what you should have done, sir, is just send us an email, we would have had that information.
Mr. McCracken pulled this on me the last time I was here. I shouldn't have to ask for this information. This is information that should become part of the budget. Don't turn the blame back on me for not asking, okay? This is a
No,
matter.
this is for
that should be-
questions tonight, so.
Well, he asked me a question, and I'm turning it back on him. I don't have to ask for
We don't need
information.
that. We don't, if you have specific questions for the budget, this is the
Okay.
time to ask.
In 2020, how much money was spent on overtime?
But I want to back up 1 second, because you said something about the total number of employees, and there's a field in there that's not empty, and you sort of said that you looked at the statute, it needs to be there, right? But when we send this to the state, if it doesn't comply, when they send it back saying, hey, you gotta fix this, so there's a check and balance there.
Okay, I just asked the
I
question,
understand.
that's all.
I just want to make sure.
It just seemed odd to me.
Yeah,
So how many,
because the state has to accept the budget when we send it in, right? So,
and this is the actual document that you send into the state? The ad that goes into
That goes
the
into the
newspaper?
newspaper.
That actually gets sent to the state as the,
Because it's part of the budget when we send the application.
okay, let's move on. In 2020, how much of the expenditures for salary and wages was due to overtime?
We don't have it broken up.
Okay, so then you wouldn't know what it would be for 2019 either, so that we could see if the overtime went up or down. Okay, that's fine.
does that go through your office too, or is that like HR? Like, do they just run a report out of the payroll?
We can run a report, yes.
Okay.
I
You
just
just
don't
don't
have it with me.
Yeah.
It's broken out by department, it's not an aggregate figure.
Okay.
You know, this is a hearing, excuse me, this is a hearing on the 2021 budget, and you're asking questions in 2020, 2019, of which this group does not have information in front of it.
But it's in the budget as a column, which says how much has been paid or
Well,
charged.
it's in as a paid or charge in salaries and wages. It's
Right.
not broken up between salaries and wages overtime and salary and wages other, so that information is not available.
I know, I understand that, and the beginning of my discussion was there's some information that should be provided that's not necessarily necessary to be provided, just in the interest of transparency.
Right, but it's not required by the state.
I understand
It's not something
that.
we'll have at our.
Well, respectfully, sir, also,
I
Mr.
understand.
Mukuzko, respectfully, sir, there's always more that can be added.
Borough meeting.
That's one of the issues, so, I mean, we understand your concerns, and obviously the financial team is taking note of everything, but if they don't have the information, they don't have the
I'm not-
information.
I'm
I'm just
not-
gonna ask that you try to curtail your questions about today's budget and how it's gonna affect the 2021 fiscal year, because that's what the purpose of the proposal.
So I think my questions are legitimate in terms
Continue
of,
to ask them.
in terms of the
We're
budget.
just making
And
a
I
comment.
understand that they might not have the information, and that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. The other premise that I would like to address is the idea that because there's no tax increase, this is a sign of a healthy budget. And my contention is it's not. Okay, for example, I like to look at the big picture of things, and if you look at my first chart, which says salary and wages, you can see that we're requesting $5.9 million for salary and wages, okay? Whereas last year we requested 5.6, and we only spent 4.9. Can anybody explain why we're asking for 5.9 million?
Because last year was an off year, so we're taking into account COVID. We got a couple of reimbursements from the CARES Act through 2020. We can't go off 2020 numbers. We have to predict 2019 and see, going forward. 2020 is an off year. It's COVID.
So does that mean we had less employees because only 4.9 million was charged?
No,
We got reimbursements. Reimbursements from the CARES Act.
And then let's move to the other expenses. The same situation. We're requesting 6.9 million. Last year we requested 6.7, and we only paid out 5.9 million.
Right, that number is skewed because we got reimbursements from COVID.
How much did we
With the
get?
CARES Act.
There's about 1.3 million, I believe.
So that went to salaries, that went to other expenses within the actual line item budgets that we actually charge, we got reimbursed.
Okay.
So I think you have to use 2020,
2019 numbers
2019 numbers,
to come up
move
with.
forward, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move on to another area that I'm interested in is trying to provide some property tax relief. And I understand that a lot of that is driven by a reduction in spending, along with using surplus. And now I'm going to just move to the chart, appropriated versus paid. And this is more of a historical chart, but again, if we just look at 20 and 21, see there's a slight increase, and we're talking about now total appropriations, okay? And again, we see that there's a difference in what was paid or charged as opposed to total budget appropriations. And I understand that it's not an exact science, and you always have to have a little extra just in case there's an emergency or whatever. The difference, though, between what we budget for and what we spend, though, is the reserve. And that's my chart on the bottom, which is the reserve, which is not spent, and unexpended balances. And you can see we had a huge reserve in 2020 of 1.9 million. And my question is, how did we not spend that much money? And if so, why are we asking for another 282,000 in appropriations this year?
It's the same thing, sir. We received funding from the CARES Act through the county, and we were able to, reimburse those budget account items to the reserve.
When I looked at the budget, I know there's a CARES Act entry on both sides, in the reserve, in the revenue side and the appropriation side. Don't they balance, cancel each other out?
There has to be, yes.
Right.
But there was 2 reimbursements. That's right. The first reimbursement that was anticipated in 2020 budget. We had a Chapter 159 in 2020, and the third reimbursement we received at the end of the year.
So what you're saying is that addition in reserve is due to those reimbursements that we got from the state?
That is, no, not from the state, from the county.
From the county?
County CARES Act.
Right. Okay. But nevertheless, right. But nevertheless, it's still reserve. It's still savings that we have. Okay. So now I'd like to look at the revenue picture on the next slide. And I think what I got from this when I looked at the chart is that, pretty much everybody knows, and you had it on your chart, I just made it a little broader. We have the tax revenue that we get from the property tax owners. We have the miscellaneous general revenues, which you described in more detail than I have here, and you included the surplus. What I did was I just took out the surplus so that we can get an idea of where the revenue stream is coming from. And in 2021, we're using $2.5 million in surplus, essentially to balance the budget. And if you look down a little further, our balance for the budget going into the year was over $3 million. And of that $3 million, the budget is using up $2.5 million, leaving us with $532,000, okay, which is, we used pretty much 82% of the surplus to balance the budget.
What you failed to mention is also that we had a decrease in certain revenues. The municipal court was down $250,000. UCC fees were just down $15,000, and consensual rentals were down $95,000. So we lost a couple of revenues, in comparison to last year.
But the overall revenues, not to interrupt, if you look at the purple line, you can see those are in the general revenue category. The general revenues increased from basically 6.9 million to 7.1 million. So there's been an increase in general revenue. So even though there were decreases, and I understand about the municipal courts, it seems that there were increases. I think if you look at the budget, you'll see the marina fees were up, the gasoline charges were up.
I can tell you what the major increases in the appropriations are. Pensions alone were up $106,480. Insurance is up $30,000. Payroll alone is, that's all contractual, sir. That's something that we can't, we can't do anything about. But we have statutory charges that we need to pay out. What is down though is the debt service. We went from 2.1 million to 2 million. It's a decrease of $82,241. So, yeah, we have shortages in revenues, but we also have a little bit of increases in appropriations, so that's why we gotta use a little bit more surplus.
My point is, I'm concerned when $3 million of surplus is here at the beginning of the year, and we use $2.5 million of it to balance the budget. Because as revenues go up, as appropriations keep increasing, as you said, they keep increasing, what if those surplus funds aren't there, then the next thing is taxes have to go up, if the other revenue streams are not going up. Correct? There's only three ways you can get money into the town, basically. You know?
Yeah, in preparing a budget, it's as much of an art as it is a science. So when you budget your revenues, you don't budget what you exactly think you're going to get, because if you don't get it, you're going to be hurt. And the same with the appropriations. So there is always a little, I was a cushion there. So the hope is that we will replace that surplus at the end of the year. That 2.5 million will come back to us. If it doesn't come back to us, then we have a harder year next year. But the team here believes that the way they crafted the revenues and crafted the appropriations, these are the surplus, at the end of the year, they should be okay. And that's based on their judgment and their calculation.
Okay, I just would be a little more comfortable with some of that surplus, maybe if there was a policy instituted where, only so much of the surplus would be used to offset the tax increase. Because I think it's, like you said, we don't know what's going to happen. And if next year's surplus goes down, then we're in a situation where some other revenue streams are going to.
But can I just say something? In 2018, the surplus was $2,385,467. In 2019, it was $2,816,786. In 2020, it's $3,071,364. So, you know what I'm saying? There's a trend going up. We're building a budget here. I understand that, but we're also managing it, right? The team does a great job managing that budget. It's not because we're building a budget and we're going to spend all the appropriations. It doesn't work that way. We like to save money at the end of the year so that way we could replenish this surplus. See what I'm saying? There's an upward trend here.
The only thing what goes along with that, though, is in 2019, we only used 49% to balance the budget. In 2020, we only used 72% to balance the budget. And in 2021, we're using 82% to balance the budget. I just don't want to see us get into a situation where government always, when they have more money, they spend more money. That seems to be the problem we have at all levels of government. And, and that's the only point I'm trying to make regarding the surplus.
Yeah, I think it's a fine point, except that it is being taken into consideration. There are other dynamics, and not just that percentage that you were highlighting. There are a lot of things in the budget. It's the same team who put these budgets together, as Ricardo said, that has raised the surplus from whatever it was, 2.3, 2.8, 2.3. They're confident that they will be able to go and move up the ladder. I know it's the borough's contention that they want a strong surplus, because that turns out and turns around to get a good credit rating. So the next time you go to bond, you get the best interest rates you can. So it does nobody any good to have a low surplus, and that's not what we're trying to do. So we are trying to maintain or increase surplus, and we believe, the team believes that even though you point out we're using 80%, we think we're going to be able to replenish that.
My last comment on that is I just would appreciate it if the team, perhaps in the future, could look at providing a little bit of property tax relief with regard to some of the surplus funds. The last thing I just want to point out, and it's a question that I think some people might have in terms of, again, future expenses. When we started the year, the annual debt statement had the town's debt at $18.6 million. In this newspaper posting, it has our outstanding balance at $23.3 million. And my question is that including the $1.5 million bond that was recently passed for the purchase of property?
What did you say with that overall net debt?
It says 23.26 million. I'm not going to read.
I don't think you have the right figures for the net debt. of the borough based on 2020 was 18,604,000.
Well, this is a balance of outstanding debt that was put in this thing.
You might have the supplemental debt statement.
Well, I don't know what it, I mean, this is the form that it's put in, at the very bottom.
This also includes interest. The annual debt statement doesn't include interest. Principal.
Okay. So how much of that would be principal then?
Well, the annual debt statement said the 18 is.
18,604,000, I think.
Okay, so then we have, that doesn't include the additional debt that's been approved since the beginning of the year.
Not in 21.
Right.
In 21.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hello, Sherry Russo, 1218 Bradford Road in Belmar. Sorry, during COVID, I unfortunately went from my phone to paper. I have a couple, very few questions and a couple of suggestions. I hope that's okay. What is our credit rating right now? You talked about our credit rating.
I don't know that credit rating on the top of my head. I can't remember the last time we went, I think the credit rating was what, 20, before we even started, man.
We do everything through Monmouth County, so we get the best rates.
We do everything through Monmouth
Okay,
County.
if I email you, will you be able to send me the credit rating? Is that possible? I don't know if that's, I'm just.
There may be an underlying credit rating in Moody's. They have not actually officially given us a credit rating. If we went through Monmouth County Proven Authority, we don't need to get a credit rating because we did it our last, in our last bond. And the last credit rating that we got was 10 years ago. That really wouldn't be right. So, and you actually have to pay for a credit rating.
Oh, only because you just said that we were putting all this in reserves to get a better credit rating. I was just curious what our credit rating was, that we needed a better one.
If we go to bond ourselves in the future, which we may, then our credit rating would stand on its own. And I think even the Monmouth County side, they take into consideration all the towns that are coming in, even though Monmouth County is the backing of the overall debt. They do look at some of the individuals that are in there and do I would say a 5,000 feet look down on the credit. But you always want to have a strong credit or position yourself to have a strong credit rating if and when you need to go get one.
Of course, yes, I just wasn't sure what we were weighing it out against. I mean, personally, I'm sure you know what your credit rating is if you're buying something, and so I wasn't sure if we had that going on in addition to that as a town. My other couple suggestions that I hope that you would take into consideration are, most of the people here are not in their young 20s, and those were very small letters written on that, and you guys went very, very quickly. I'll
try to slow down next time.
All right, and so maybe you could split it up or something. I mean, I tried to read, and I couldn't take pictures. A lot of times I take pictures.
It'll be on the website.
It'll be on the website.
I would like to, I know you highlighted what was important to you, but as I was saying there, I'm like, oh, what was gasoline? And then all of a sudden it was gone, And so just as a suggestion for next time as a part of this, I'm in my 50s. My eyes aren't what they used to be. It would have been nice to be able to see it, maybe go a little slower so I can read it. And I'm sure also people my age-ish are interested in this as a topic too, so that's all. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, April, seeing none,
Is there a motion to close the budget hearing?
make a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, and great job, the team, the 2021 budget.
Mayor, may I have a quick question, please? I'm Valerie Farrow. I'm from Second and Ocean. About a year ago, I had asked, and again, this is in regard to infrastructure. Are there any plans to finally get to Inland Terrace, because that road is god-awful? Any dates?
We just talked about with our engineer, that's the next one to go. So I'm working on it right now.
Okay, great.
Thank you, everyone. All right, moving on. I guess we'll move right on. I don't have anything else on the workshop. So we'll move on to petition. What we get?
I don't have any positions.
Approval of minutes for June 1.
I have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 1st meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, reports of council. Councilman Carvelli?
Thank you, Mayor. I still haven't, excuse me, I was actually traveling for the past week, and none of my other committees have met, so I don't have much of a report, but I did want to address something that was brought up in the last council meeting about the cap, and I know the financial team was left, but there was an implication that we don't really understand some of the things that we're approving up here. And I just want to read the ordinance that allows it, that where we exceed the cap. And basically, it says, the Borough Council finds it advisable and necessary to increase the 2021 budget by up to 3.5% of the previous year's final appropriations in the interest of promoting the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens. And the borough determines that a 2.5% increase in the budget for said year amounting to $352,453 in excess of the increase in final appropriations permitted by the local government cap law is advisable. And so the important part here, and I think this is where I want to hone in on. It says, any amount authorized herein that is not appropriated as part of the final budget for this year shall be retained as an exception to the final appropriation either of the next two succeeding years. And so, when this was first, when I first saw this ordinance 2 years ago, I asked the financial team, what's the deal with this? Like, why are we doing this? Sort of the same thing that Mr. Buckfusco had brought up last time. And so while I'm not able to fully articulate it, I understand what it means. And it's basically, we're protecting ourselves for the next 2 years should we have to raise our budget above what's allowable in that particular year. And so, this comes down to us trusting our professionals to guide us in the right way. So, I may not be able to explain this in the technical details that an attorney or a financial person may be able to, but I understand it. And so that's why I continue to approve it. And I also trust that the professionals are going to come back and tell me if there's something else that I should know if something should change. So I just wanted to bring that up. I think we all understand what we're doing up here, and I think we take guidance from our professionals, and we trust in them to help us make good decisions. So that's all that I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From my new seat, I love my new seat. I do. The Harbor Commission had a meeting last Tuesday. Things are growing great over at the marina. I mean, we're almost full. Maybe by the end of the summer we might be full. But that's a good problem to have. We've had to, in the last few weeks, we had to assign some more designated parking spaces for slip holders at the north end of the marina by the bridge, so they have spaces over by the railroad tracks by Doughboy Park. The really important thing that came up in the meeting, and part of the discussions that are being started now, is we need to start thinking seriously about dredging our marina. There are slips that we can't rent at full price because they're shoveled in, other kinds of things like that. That's about a 3-year project, from start to finish. And we're getting ready to start getting approvals.
Probably 3 years just to get approvals.
Because, yeah, gotta work on those approvals. Well, you know, I love the DEP. I love them sometimes. The Environmental Commission had a meeting on Thursday. Not much going on there. They're working on a couple of projects, but the big news there is one of their members has resigned, Nozer Mehta, and his wife moved to Red Bank. I don't know why they want to move to Red Bank. Red Bank's a lovely town, but I grew up there. But it's, I don't know. Okay. So we're going to be looking, and if anybody's interested in serving on the Environmental Commission, please email Borough Clerk. And last thing I want to tell everybody is this personal thing. My wife and I were in a little car accident last week at the 11th and Main. The way I remember it, the truck in front of us at the stop sign started going. The car behind us started going, and we didn't go. So we got a bang in the back, and we were pretty shook up, my wife and I. And I got to tell you, we called, just to be safe, we called Belmar Police. Belmar PD was there within a couple of minutes. Our Belmar EMS was there within a couple of minutes. I can't tell you how proud I was of our professionals. I like to think that I don't think that they gave me any special treatment because I'm a councilman. I think the treatment we got is what everybody got, and I tell you, I am so proud of the way they handled it, and I'm feeling fine, We even got a follow-up call later on that evening to make sure that we were all right. I am so proud of our police department, all first responders, our EMS and our fire department. We are really, really lucky to have you. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President Warren.
Thank you, Mayor. I have an announcement. My committee meetings are next week. The Circle of Friends is having a walk on Tuesday, the 22nd. They're going to start at Taylor Pavilion at 11 o'clock and walk down as far as DJ's, where the children and parents will stop and have lunch. So if anybody wants to join them and walk, you're certainly welcome to.
What time is that?
I'm sorry?
Time?
11 o'clock
Oh,
at
that's
Taylor?
okay.
Yeah. And I'd like to congratulate everybody who worked on the tennis courts and the pickleball courts. They're beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Long time coming, but worth the wait. They're really beautiful. So I think, oh, excuse me. So sorry, excuse me. I think, Mr. Kirschenbaum, we talked a little bit about, I think you're looking into it, getting times ready for people at the tennis courts. That's to come, how we're gonna work that.
Yes, we're working with Barry and
Barry,
Recreation,
yeah.
so they'll be on our website and how to get the court so it's properly
Right.
manned and
Yeah.
people have times to utilize the new courts.
Thank you. Yeah, and those of you who play pickleball, tennis, enjoy them. Also, at past Dempsey Park, our tennis courts, basketball courts are really crowded. Kids are down and they've been done over and they look beautiful also. So thank you very much. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. I just have a few things. The library is opening June 24th, so that's going to reopen. Our gym is now open. We have, our recreation programs are up and running. We're going to have a farmer's market starting on June 23rd, which is a Thursday night, between 12th and 13th. Wednesday, yeah, the 23rd, yeah. And it's going to go every Wednesday as long as the weather's good throughout the summer. We have fireworks set for July 2nd, so we're going to do the 4th of July weekend with the rain date of July 3rd. And there's two areas that we're looking for volunteers for. We're having the 150-year anniversary of Belmar next year, so we're looking to put a committee together for that. And we need volunteers for the Friendship Force if anybody's interested in coming out to help on boardwalk this summer. And if anybody knows of any employees that want to work the beach or do anything, we're very short on employees this year. Everybody's having a problem getting help, and we're certainly not immune to that, so we're having a problem with that. So if anybody's out there looking for a couple of days of work, help us out down the beach, we would appreciate talking to them. And the last thing is our movie screen is on its way, and we're going to start movies on the beach on July 15th.
That's true. That's true.
So, and that's all I have. All right, we'll move on to public session on the consent agenda items. If anybody has anything that they want to question on the resolution items? Yes, Mr. Kramer.
Eugene Creamer, 4th Avenue. Resolution number 2021-152. This is for DJs. And a date has to be changed here, the operational dates. And that would be the where is number 4. As you go down the page, there's a bunch of where is. That November 14th, 2021 date, that actually has been changed by act of the legislature and it was signed by the governor. That's January 14th, 2022. So DJs can operate right up through January 14th, 2022.
Was that the special resolution they did?
Yes, it was.
Because that's only good till 2022, correct? So that would be outside of their liquor license.
No. This liquor license starts, July 1st, 2021.
Yeah, but that's part of the COVID. They have separate, that's a whole separate resolution that the governor signed. If it comes off for next year, this is part of his liquor license, and he's allowed to go to January 2022. Just like everybody can put up their tents outside and do all that. We'll check the legislation though.
Yeah.
We'll check it.
That's Senate Bill 2597. That's my understanding is that that is the actual document that the governor did sign. And
Are you aware of that one?
Not aware of that one, I'll actually stop pulling up.
I can hand this over to the attorney.
Yeah, we'll look at it, Mr. Kramer. I mean, if that has to be changed, we'll change the date on that, but if it's
Oh, I
part of
think
that
it
code.
has to be changed because of the term of this license. There's actual change of operational dates. There's a couple little typos in here. None of them material, but I don't think it's any problem, quite truthfully, for, in as much as this is just a resolution, that it can be changed without any further ado. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll see you. Oh, yeah, come on
For
up.
the pickleball and stuff that you talked about, is that in public session or no?
Yeah, public session.
Okay.
April?
I have a motion to close the public session. All in favor?
Aye.
And can I have a motion to approve the resolutions as listed on consent agenda number 1?
Motion. Second.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Vaughn?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Mayor Walsberg?
Yes.
I have a motion to approve the resolutions listed on consent agenda number 2.
Motion. Second.
Councilman Vaughn? Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Mayor Walsberg?
Yes.
Next is public hearing on ordinance 2021-16. This is a bond ordinance for the purchase of a fire truck. If anyone would like to comment on this ordinance, please come to the microphone and state your name and address.
Terry Russo, 1218 Briarwood Road in Belmar. I have two questions. One is, how many fire trucks have we bought this year? Like, didn't we bond out for them like in the last year? Do I remember that
Last year we
correctly?
bought one, and this year we're buying one.
We only bought one. And was there like some other rescue truck or something?
This is a rescue truck, yes.
This is a rescue, and we only bought one total. And that was
No, we bought a pumper last year, and we're buying the rescue truck this year.
the rescue. All right, thank you. Oh, sorry. Do you foresee us needing another one in the near future, or do you think that
Well, there
we're...
was 3 that were out of service. We felt that the rescue truck is the next one that needed it, because that's the one that fills the tanks on fire and does all the CO2 work, if their CO2 alarms are going off. So that's the truck that would go out. That truck goes out on car accidents, and the cab is rotted off the chassis, so we're desperate.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand. But you don't feel that we foresee like one in 3 more months or something? I know that Councilman McCracken isn't here tonight. You spoke of before planning out ahead about how many trucks we would need. I wasn't sure if there was something like in the works.
Well, that's what we want to look to in the future, is to plan them out. I mean, this one was a 1985, it should have been probably replaced about 10 years ago.
And how many fire trucks do we own as like a town in Belmar?
Right now, we have 6.
6.
One is out.
Okay.
Well, 2 are out of commission.
All right, thank you very much.
Anyone else? Yes.
Hello. Hello. My name is Tucker Brendel. I'm a past chief in the department. I'm currently the vice president and the head of our new fire rescue apparatus replacement committee. With me is our committee. These are all past chiefs as well out of Hook and Ladder. Some of the guys in the back, as you can see. Before we get started, we'd just like to state for the record that we are only here to speak on behalf of the Belmar Volunteer Hook and Ladder Fire Company number 1. That's Station 2 on 11th Avenue. We wanted to come to the council meeting as a vote is taking place to purchase a new fire rescue apparatus in which we'll be replacing our out-of-service 1985 36-year-old Ford 3D fire rescue truck. Our rescue has been out of service since last summer. Although we had no intentions of retiring at that time, ongoing service reports continued to not only put it out of service but deemed it unsafe and unfixable. Since then, our company has been responding in one piece of fire apparatus with 6 total seats for our roster of about 25 members. That piece of apparatus is the borough's ladder truck. Although that is in great condition, it does not belong responding to all types of calls for service. This has been a hindrance to our membership, both in responding to calls, training, and morale. Luckily, our company membership has persevered and saw light at the end of the tunnel when speaking with this administration. We are replacing almost exactly what the borough and Hook and Ladder have been utilizing to respond to fires for almost 35 years. The new apparatus has updated technology and all the required safety standards that we are currently lacking. Even if our old rescue did not have the service issues, the National Fire Protection Agency 1911 standard for the inspection, maintenance, testing, and retirement of in-service emergency vehicles could have put this vehicle out of service even sooner. This vehicle will provide manpower, equipment, emergency lighting, self-contained breathing apparatus, an air fill station, generator power, hazmat, and roadway emergency equipment, and much more. This vehicle can also assist multiple agencies both in and out of town at a wide variety of emergency calls. 6 weekends ago, our company started an all-volunteer duty crew night standby from the hours of 8:30 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. for safer, more efficient, and expedient response to emergency calls, with a full crew of firefighters during our busy summer weekends with an influx amount of seasonal residents and visitors. We've had emergency calls on 90% of our shifts. We've totaled at least 250 all-volunteer man-hours and at least 54 additional volunteer training hours on those shifts. This new rescue truck would too be utilized along with the ladder during our standbys. This has been a great tax on our membership and their level of commitment. When our rescue truck was officially and finally put out of service for good, our company, under the advisement of our fire administrator, put together an apparatus replacement committee, as any municipal or fire district funded fire company would do. Our committee met with at least 5 or so apparatus vendors on multiple meetings and did our homework to present what we feel is a feasible and fair solution to replace the out-of-service rescue. For example, early on in our meetings, we were educated on the cost savings of a commercial stock cabin chassis as opposed to a custom. This is what we currently have and are continuing to ask for to save the borough and its taxpayers money. These are also reputable brands and they make servicing more available. Manufacturing availability and timelines due to COVID has also been an issue, but we are fortunate to have found a company with the available cabin chassis as well as immediate space in their assembly in which we can take quick delivery. Hook and Ladder is just a volunteer fire company trying to provide the best service we can to our town and its residents. We would be remiss to not mention that this apparatus replacement is long overdue. We are not focusing on one political party or past administration, but we are going to recognize that this is something we did not believe would happen, but is now finally on the table. We cannot thank the mayor, the borough administrator, and the fire administrator enough for getting us this far. We thank them for their ongoing support of our fire company, Volunteer Hook and Ladder, and look forward to continuing to work with them and serving the residents of Belmar. We thank you, the council, for your consideration tonight and approving this purchase. Our fire company believes this new rescue will provide the same, if not higher level of service and pride to the borough of Belmar. That's all we have for you, unless you have some questions.
I don't think any of the council does, but.
All right, well, thank you for
Just
listening.
thank you, and thank you for what you guys do.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? All right, April?
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2021-16?
Second.
Okay, Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Luan?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Mayor Walsinger?
Yes.
Next, we have ordinance 2021-17. This is an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of real property and improvements at 414 9th Avenue. Do we have a motion to offer for first reading and introduction?
I'll make the motion.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Luan? Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Mayor Walsinger?
Yes.
And last is ordinance 2021-18. This is an ordinance amending housing and property maintenance to prohibit the planting or growing of bamboo. We have a motion to offer for first reading and introduction.
I'll definitely make the motion.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Councilman Luan?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Mayor Walsinger?
Yes. Okay, on the public session. Anybody have anything that they want to ask the council, come up and state your name and address, please.
I'm Maria 12, 1246 Pine Tree Way, so nice to see your faces.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, I still would really appreciate if we could do this over Zoom for the next few times. I know I'm having my mask on right now. That is because I have a child at home who is not vaccinated. And so I would like to have that as a consideration. April is fantastic getting questions answered, but when you have a back and forth and you're able to do that over Zoom, it is much easier than emailing in a question, even in live stream time, which I appreciate, John. The question that I have right now is on ordinance 2021-17 with the first aid building. I continue to be saddened and disappointed by the idea that our town will be bonding $1.5 million for something that, in my opinion and from what I've heard, could have been resolved in $40,000 and a good relationship. And I am wondering if we are going to put in this money, my earnings, my husband's earnings, my daughter's earnings, into debt. Can we at least make sure that we are not going to turn into a hub in a very residential part of town? Should stay the same, first aid squad, and I'm hearing this idea of, oh, we can expand. Well, can we please adhere to those deed boundaries that the first aid is asking for?
Well, I can tell you this, that we're paying the highest bid price, and I don't have a crystal ball what'll go on in the next 10 no way. Would you buy a house where the seller is telling you what you can do with it and what you can't do?
I did, and that's why we have, actually, I had to go through the variance to get a porch.
You had deed restrictions on your house when you bought it?
I have a restriction that says I can't do certain things to my house.
Well,
I
it's
can't
same-
put more
same as
concrete
that
onto my
building.
house. I can't say, oh, guess what, my private practice
Right.
is gonna be in the
Can I say
house.
something to you?
Yeah.
You had the deed restriction was already on the property when you purchased it, on the listing. You're talking about after the fact putting one on.
Councilwoman Wong, it actually sounds like you're talking about both variance requirements for the impervious coverage, well, the maximum permissible impervious coverage. That's entirely a separate standard than what a deed restriction is. What a deed restriction is, it says, period, you can never do this. However, the borough zoning ordinances, they do list whatever the maximum impervious coverage is, and that's just a part of good planning and just how to proceed. That's why we have a procedure for a joint land use board, or a planning board, or a zoning board. With the, and we're actively negotiating with the Belmar First Aid Squad, and our goal is to hopefully that we can come to an amicable resolution, but it's not something that can be answered right now. I appreciate your comment right now, because I'm going to be one of the main people that's going to be negotiating along with Mr. Kirschenbaum and members of the council when we do write back to the attorney. Our goal is to resolve this amicably, but as far as the deed restrictions as written, there's no justification for it, because they're saying, period, you can never do this. Obviously, the borough has to comply with all zoning ordinances, just like you as a residential homeowner, and as it's a pre-existing non-conforming use, the borough cannot further exasperate that use without an additional zoning variance. So anything to say that they can do it or arbitrarily, they would have to follow their own procedure. So I don't really know where these rumors coming from that this is what they're going to do, this is what they're not going to do, but being inherently involved, I can tell you that I've never said that. So.
Right, so a deed restriction, from what you're saying, is that you can never do it. You can't go back to zoning and say, we would like to do this. That has never happened, even if there's a change of the master plan.
Correct, unless the person who conveyed the deed restriction revokes on it.
Okay. And so then I would just like to say for the record that I would not like a hub of first responders going to different towns and having more fire trucks, and I would not like that area to change from residential. Thank you.
Hi, Sherry Russo, 1218 Priory Road in Belmar. Can I ask if pickleball courts are going to be free to sign up?
Yes, they're free right now.
Okay. And another question I have is the Friendship Force, if one would join that, would that be on the website?
I can just call my office.
Yeah.
Send me an email.
Okay. And does that include the volunteering for the 100 years celebration?
That'd be a separate committee, but if you want to be on that, that's fine.
Same
Just-
email?
Yeah, same email.
Okay. Okay. And I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Oh, I'm Patrick Varga.
Patrick Bargan?
Varga, V-A-R-G-A.
Oh, Varga. That comes back to me, sorry. It's very different, not being, seeing everybody's name.
I understand.
I talked to Jerry Dasty before on council meeting, and then he had me call him at his office. And then I have some questions about Animal House. I'm sure that you all know that it's insane on Facebook, what everybody writes. And my question and suggestion is, so when I talked to Jerry Dasty, he said to me there was like this many pages and pages of how to have an animal house happen and versus the noise. And there was, I took many notes that I'm sure we don't want to get into here today. And so I'm sure you all remember me calling in. I don't have to go backwards here. But my issue is that when things come up on noise violations or Animal House, there is, it's very difficult to find that stuff. Granted, I talked to Jerry Dasty on the phone, I wrote all the stuff down, I told him to hold on, let me write some more, we all know I'm not shy about speaking. And so, then when I try to explain it to somebody to help them out, that's my neighbor, it becomes like a he said, she said, because it's written so difficult for the average person to understand. And so my question is, here we are in summer, rental properties, how loud is too loud? There were people that were loud. Was it too loud? How do you know if it's too loud? Do we just repeatedly call the police over and over again, I understand that. I'm all for, you know, I try not to annoy the police. I love the police. I think we have amazing police here. But like, maybe there's like a better way to do it or something. Like, there's something going wrong with this. Like, this shouldn't be this insane on Facebook that nobody has an answer. Everybody's fighting about something. I don't understand it. I do know that if my tenants make any noise, I should call on them. Somebody posted that means if you're speaking outside, like, are they not allowed to be outside at night? Jerry Dastia, I think Mayor told me that at 10 o'clock it shifts, but it's not a different noise ordinance. There's like 10 million things. Other people are saying, oh, after 10 o'clock you have to be quiet. The mayor told me before a council meeting that wasn't the case, that after 10 o'clock something does change where they don't need somebody to call in. But things are, I think, very out of control with like,
I can straighten a little bit out for you. I mean, before 10 o'clock,
yes,
you need a complaint.
right.
So,
And
like,
after
if
10
you call
o'clock,
in for a noise call,
yep,
and the officer gets there,
yes,
and they don't feel that there's enough noise, the complaint has the right to sign the complaint.
yes.
If the officer doesn't think that it rises to the level, then but after 10 o'clock, if you call up, we don't need a complaint. So
Right,
the
yes.
officer will make the call. That's the difference between, but the noise ordinance is 24 hours a day.
Yes, I remember you saying that.
So, and the chief could, I'm sure, could explain it a little bit better.
Sorry.
But the officers will show up and they make the determination.
Right.
The way our animal house ordinance has to work is you
Mhm.
have to call up. The police have to have
Documentation.
reports on it
Right.
or issue summonses for everything to work. You can't just say, you know, when is our animal house ordinance going to kick in and nobody's called the police department?
Right, I agree with that. But my question more of is like, how loud is too loud? And is it for like, if I say like, Matt, and then like, can my neighbor like who doesn't like me call in on me? Or does it have to be like, you know, and I'm sure, and I understand this, you know, I know that some people I can hear outside, many houses down. I can't hear it in my house. However, other people are upset, period. And so I don't know when I have tenants coming, are they allowed to sit in the backyard and like talk to each other?
Yes. But unfortunately, with the noise ordinance being 24/7, not unfortunately, but noise that would bother me may not bother you.
Right.
So if I call on my neighbor because they're on their porch just talking, it's bothering me at 10 o'clock at night. It may not bother the resident a block away that the summer renters are sitting
on
on
the other
their porch
side,
talking.
right, yes.
So what we do as the officers, once we respond to a noise complaint, usually if we can hear something off the property line, that's a given, you know, there's noise, we can hear it. As we approach the house, our officers sometimes, you know, a lot of them are on bike patrol or walking, they'll come from a block away and start listening for 408 12th Avenue.
Oh, yeah.
Just throwing that, I'm just
Right,
throwing
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And sorry if that's anybody's I'm just throwing that one out there. You know, and they'll park the patrol car around the block if it's a loud party that was the complaint. And they'll walk up to the house and, you know, there's been times where we've gone to the noise complaints and there's been absolutely no noise.
Right.
Where there's two people sitting on the porch talking. Again, that may bother you, but
Right.
it doesn't bother me.
And right, that was my question is like, so I have, for Memorial Day weekend, I had people that came, and when they came to the door, and I give them, you know, the code to get in and everything, I say to them, we have a noise ordinance, it's 24/7, I will sit outside and call the police on you every second of every minute. I am not kidding about this.
But
And
and
so,
when we do go to these calls, if there's, we still make contact with whoever is at the resident.
And I live next door to my rental also, so, you know, I mean.
So, and
yeah.
you as the complainant can sign a complaint with the court against them if you don't feel that, you know,
Oh, only
didn't
because
sign
the town attorney, Jerry Dastia, told me that if the landlord calls on their own tenant, then they do not get a animal house. And that's the way that ordinance was written. And so, and that because I didn't own, like Matt's a signer on it and I'm not, it would have to be Matt. And he told me that he would have to put me as like, let's say Matt went to work and I was home, then he would have to write something out that's saying I as an owner would have to call myself. That it would like that he was appointing me to be an owner while he's gone. this is the problem. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we're all confused. That's what I was told. I'm going on this information. I try to be very, very, very strict with my tenants. I think that I live in a quiet neighborhood, number one, and number two, nobody wants to be annoyed. However, I don't like the fact that, like, the person across the street who's not as friendly or whatever, and wants to be like, oh, well, you're, like, someone in my neighborhood went to my tenants and said to that tenant, don't make any noise out here, don't do anything, I expect you to stay inside. I don't think that that is right. Like, and they were very quiet, like these, I, told them my little spiel, and I sat outside and listened, and I couldn't even hear music coming through the windows with my head like up against the house. And so, it seems like a very confusing ordinance, and I don't know what to do in my situation. I, of course, try to always abide by the law and do every single thing that, I can do to make things perfect and right. And I know that in my neighborhood, other people are very angry at some of the houses that are in my neighborhood. Like, can they sit outside and have a barbecue at 6 o'clock at night? Do the CO is for 4. That means you have 4 people, maybe you have 2 people over. I only have 4 chairs for each person. I didn't make it so you could have a party. I say no parties, no groups, no smoking. I've done everything I can. And so I want to make sure that on Facebook, when things blow up, that I'm doing what's right. I mean, I talked to two.
Okay,
I'm
so,
sorry.
yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to be turning to everybody. I don't mean to give you my back.
I don't think Belmar came up with the animal house ordinance, right? Isn't it a state statute that we?
Oh, is it a state statute?
It's a
Sorry.
state statute that lists everything, and I'm 99% positive on the Borough of Belmar website, when you click Animal House, you look up for the Animal House portion of the designation, they do quote and cite the statute in either the first or second paragraph. I don't know why.
I remember, Matt did print it out for me when I talked to Jerry Dasty, but you're talking March 18th, so.
I don't remember what the statute is off the top of my head.
Yes, right,
Reading it at some
exactly,
point,
yes.
And it's there. As far as what Jerry told you, what our ordinance exactly says, I couldn't pull it off on my phone in time to exactly
No
answer your
problem,
question.
yes, I know,
But
right
please
now
call
on the
me.
computer.
Feel free to call me tomorrow. I'll be in my
Okay.
office all day.
Are you having a problem with your tenants?
I don't, but I don't want to have one.
And if you're having, and this is what community policing is set up for, if you're having.
And I'm a block captain also, so and I watch.
Reach out to your community policing officer if.
Well, it's me.
If it's, no, I mean the officer.
Oh, officer, the police officer, yes. I did already meet with the police officer and talk with him about, on the sergeant, and talk with him because,
So, I mean.
I don't want to be the one who's,
circumvented.
people call up and be like, I'm at this house and I hate my neighbors and they're doing this. I want to make sure that's not me.
Yeah, well, that's what community policing is set up for. If you're having the issue on your block, you have one of the police officers that's assigned to that area, go down and have a discussion with who was ever having a problem on that block. I mean, you take the easy approach first and see if you can work it out before, if they're causing a problem on the block. But it's not to the level of calling the police department on them every time, but it's sort of aggravating people on the block and then not sure what they can do. That's the time when your community policing officer should come down and have a discussion with either the people that are handling.
Yeah, the people that are coming, I've already talked to them about that, and then it gets posted on Facebook. I know it gets very blown out of proportion, and I'm not saying that anything written is true or not, but can people have a little barbecue and have a couple beers out in the backyard, or is that too loud? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? How loud is too loud? Am I too loud now? We all know I'm loud. But if I'm outside at my own party, no, I'm just kidding. But you know what I'm saying? In Animal House, am I correct that Animal House is written that you lose your license on your first Animal House violation, and it used to be you had to get 3? Did that change?
No,
No.
that hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed.
It's more
It's still.
stringent.
Oh.
Yeah, it is more stringent.
Yeah, that one's not on the first one. But, I mean, if you're having a problem with the block, and I suggest to everybody, if it's bothering you or it's bothering people, you have to call and contact the police department.
Right,
If
but
it's
I
something
wanna-
that's not rising to the level, that's where.
I want to be proactive, they're coming. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're coming, one person was coming this weekend, and another person, and then I have somebody staying, and then I have a long-term in a couple weeks. I just want to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, whatever that is. I don't seem to know what it is, even after talking to Jerry Dasty, even after being here.
Sometimes it's a little common sense,
Well, I would hope for myself it would be, but maybe my neighbor who thought he should take it upon himself to go talk to my tenants and tell them they weren't allowed to come outside, what does one then do? Do I call on him? Do you know what I mean?
Well,
And they didn't make a peep.
And then if the police respond, they're gonna see that they're not making noise and they're not
Okay.
causing a disturbance.
And I
They're
don't
not
think
just
the
writing them
report is
because
saying
you called the police and
Oh.
said, oh, they're making noise, and we go
Right.
there and there's two people sitting on the front porch
And then you're
talking. They're not gonna get a summons, they're not in violation.
Oh, I see.
Do you see what I'm saying?
saying?
Yes,
So,
It'll be written in a report that there's no noise.
Oh,
it'll be written
I
that there was
see.
two people, we arrived, there was two people sitting on the front porch talking.
Okay.
There's no violation there. If they're playing their music in the backyard through, big old
Oh,
speakers,
yeah, we don't allow
that's a
that.
different story.
Yes.
You know,
Like
we
they had
can
the
hear it
sign
from
on,
the
right,
outside,
that,
yeah.
so.
That's totally different. The officers have discretion. We don't
Oh.
just, there is a no tolerance in Belmar, but
Yep.
again, going to a house with two people sitting on the front porch and going to a house where they're blasting music in the backyard.
Right.
are two totally different things.
I agree with you.
So,
It's obvious what it's-
I have
what it's
total
gonna be.
faith in the officers that are arriving on these calls, making the decision whether there's a violation or not.
Okay, wonderful.
And
All
I'm
right.
just going to circle
Oh,
back on
sorry,
the definitively answer to the question. One, it's 2 violations
Okay.
within a period, a 24-month period. However, under the Borough Ordinance 26-11.7A1, the very last sentence reads, "In the event the owner of the licensed premises is the complaining party and said complaint results in a conviction in municipal court, such conviction shall not be counted as a complaint for purposes of a license suspension or revocation." So just basically keep up on your tenants, and if they are acting too rowdy, contact the police department. And if you're the initiating complaint, it appears based off the way that the borough's ordinance is written that you would be protecting yourself.
Okay.
Doesn't count against your animal house.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, that's what Jerry Dasty had told me. I just wanted to just make sure as things were going insane on Facebook. A couple other things that I just wanted to touch upon this extremely, extremely quickly, and just to comment, I don't even per se need an answer back. I feel very disappointed that you had told me in the past that we had enough money for first aid, but we were going through it, and now we're bonding an ordinance with a huge amount of money. I asked many questions about this before, and on first aid before. I feel like the speaker before me, Maria, that there was a smaller amount of money that this could have been done with, and I feel very, very disappointed that that didn't happen, and that it's come to this, and this gossip on whether or not it's a hub, and that residents will be bombarded with calls. And I think all that is a very sad situation, and I think that it shouldn't come to that, and I really wanted to express my disappointment on that situation. And I hope that, the town and its residents, I'm sorry, what's funny?
Oh, go ahead.
No, because you were laughing and shaking your head, so I was curious.
No. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And so I just really feel that, I hope that, we don't turn it into a hub. Gossip, no gossip, as we know, with a million different things that talk here, and people come and say, I'd like to hear it for the source. I understand we don't know what's going to happen 10 years down the line, but perhaps we know in 6 months down the line. And I just want to say that I hope that, we do the right thing. I think that the right thing could have been done before, and I think that situation turned out unfortunate. And I hope first aid going on from this will be better. And thank you everything for all the other explaining to me. I appreciate everything. And do you mind if I get your card? I know you're going to give it to me before. Thank you.
Put my extension on it as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good evening, everybody. Linda Sharkus, 4th Avenue. On a more upbeat note, I want to thank the mayor, the council, the borough administrator, code enforcement for bringing peace and quiet enjoyment to the 500 block of 13th Avenue. The people on that block made a mistake and didn't call the police. And I just want to remind people who are listening to this, that if you hear noise that we just talked, that Sherry Russo just talked about, dial 732-681-1700 and call in the complaint, because it's the only way we're going to get tickets for the Animal House ordinance. But I thank you for helping us on this, the 500 block of 13th. It's been great. We've been checking on it and everybody's happy. So, good going.
Good to hear.
Thank you.
Yes, Sharon.
Good evening, everyone. Sharon Russell Fowler. I'm actually representing the library. So I just want to mention a couple of things about the library opening. The mayor did mention that it is opening on the 24th. The hours are going to be from 9 to 4. We do have a big sign. Hopefully I can post it here somewhere if it's not already up, that Pat Roddy is going to be playing that evening. I just wanted to give you the hours and just a couple of fine points. We're going to be open 6 days a week. Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays from 9 to 4, Wednesday and Thursdays from 9 to 7, and Saturdays from 9 to 1. During the time period that the library was closed to the public, but we did offer curbside, we purchased all new public computers with faster performance for the patrons, to which Marshall, thank you very much for installing them. I know that made everyone happy. We have free public Wi-Fi internet access, a book enlarger for people with visual impairments. There will be a work-study space with power outlets in the lower level of the media room, and a new series of programs for adults and children to learn, explore, and create. All the programs will now be held in person at the library, and there will be some performances that will still be live streamed. A couple of points I wanted to mention. I don't know if you're aware of it, that New Jersey Monthly actually has a scavenger hunt that's going on right now, and the Belmar Library is one of the sites. So if you go and take a picture and send it in, there's a chance that you might be a winner. We also have the youth art program, which is only open for the children, a maximum number of 10. That's run by Dawn Liscow. And I believe the first of the 6-week course will start on July 13th. There's been an ongoing poetry jam cabaret. A couple of us have actually presented, myself included. We do have another one coming up on the 23rd, which is next week at 6 p.m., and it's also through Zoom. Hopefully that will be ending and we'll be doing more in person. This Thursday, we have we have an author that's going to be reading. That's going to be Charity Pinero. She's written several books. She's a local Belmar resident, and her time will be at 6 p.m. this Thursday. And just a reminder, all late fees were waived, but the pandemic is kind of coming to an end. So if you have that book that you've been holding on to for 2 years, bring it back. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Yeah,
Sean Brendel, 1628 Oakwood Road, Wall. I know Kenny Pringle just wrote a letter that was put up with the First Day Squad reference that they're going to deny your bid for the building down there, but also in it it's talked about that you plan on putting the 3 fire companies down there. Just want to know if that's true or not.
That's a department. That's not up to us. We're just looking to purchase the building.
Okay, well, I just wonder why your lawyer would say.
The firemen decided that they wanted to all combine and do something, then we'll talk to them.
Okay, because I was just wondering, because your lawyer said that was, the plan was that that's where you're going to build a firehouse for the 3 of us. And that's what Kenny had in the letter.
We never said that.
We never said that.
So it's not the, but in the, I'm just talking about the letter that Kenny Pringle wrote?
Yeah, I did. I read the letter.
So he's saying that your lawyer said that. That's why I'm questioning to see if that's true or not.
I'm telling you, my office never said that.
Okay, perfect. That's what I need to know. Thank you, Mayor.
Would you support that?
What?
Would you support that?
I'm not going to talk on behalf of the fire department.
That's-
I'm just representing myself.
I think that's.
But the fire department does have a committee that you can speak to.
We're talking about it now.
So I'm just here for myself. I'm not representing any of the fire department. I just wanted to ask a question, and you guys would have the answer. Thank you.
Yes.
It's Valerie again. Just a quick question, Mayor and team. I'm hoping the answer is positive, but are we completely rid of, regarding noise, we had this massive group of these Los Goonies that were, I live near Ocean Avenue, and they were invading on many nights, and it started from 7, you may have heard it as well, from 7 to 10, okay, and I think they call themselves the Poppers. I haven't heard them recently, so I'm hoping that you addressed it, but it was god-awful, noisy, scary, skid marks all over Ocean Avenue, okay, so, before it got ugly. So I just wanted to address that, and hopefully you took care of this?
We're doing everything in our power. Chief's working on it.
Okay.
So hopefully.
I did call the station once, and they said, you know, they're doing everything possible, but it was out of their control. Because I know a lot.
The problem is, we never know when they're coming, and then now they have codes. We're trying to figure out their codes so we can determine when they're coming. But we contact all the police departments in the area. We give out tons and tons of summonses, park mobiles in place till 10 at night, so we hit them with tons of summonses on that. But the problem is, we don't know when they're coming, and we don't know who the leader of the group is. So it's a little challenging.
Yes.
But we figured that the more we do to try to do everything in our power, the state police sit out on 195 when they're leaving and write as many tickets as they can. Wall Township, Neptune writes a lot of summonses. We write a lot of summonses. So hopefully, when they get tired of paying and coming here, they'll pick another place to go. But I think now with this pandemic over, they're going.
I think they're letting loose, so to speak, because I see they congregate at 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
And what I found very disturbing, and maybe you have heard it, is that they have a comment, we own the streets. And I said, God help us, because we don't want any kind of chop zone, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, I heard Spring Lake, Avon, that they were very strict on restraining them. And I just hope we do the same, because you know, it's a family town, and God forbid of a fatality, Mayor, because I have seen.
I know, we're doing everything in our
Okay,
power
all right.
under the law.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I felt a little relief, because for the past 2-3 weeks, it's been quiet.
Jinx it.
No, but may I also say, they do, there's something, someone told me, they do alert all their members on Instagram, so maybe it makes sense.
We're following.
Oh, yeah.
You are?
We
Okay,
follow.
all right,
Yeah.
that's
They
all.
have codes now.
Yeah.
We know we're watching.
And you know, in all sincerity, it's not only just the noise, it's the chance, you know, now that it gets dark later, kids with, who's crossing the street, and I don't have to tell you, they're absolutely scary, reckless drivers that we don't want to know about, we own the streets. That's,
Can I have your last name and your address again?
absolutely, it's Valerie, Valerie, out of Faro, Ottofaro, and I'm on Second and Ocean.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Sure.
Jimmy Bucket, let's go 409 Fifth Avenue. The previous speaker dealt with one of the things I was going to talk about, but I'm again referring to that letter from Mr. Pringle to the town on June 11th. And I'd just like to know, another allegation was made further down that
June 14th, you mean? Oh, I'm sorry.
June 14th, I'm sorry.
Yeah, telephone conversation.
Another allegation was made further down that certain officials, and I'm paraphrasing, have long been planning to take control of the First Aid property for the purpose of building a consolidated and ultimately regional fire and first aid on the First Aid property. Is there any truth to that statement?
Like I just said, that would be up to the firemen if they wanted to get together and possibly down the road, we'd take a look at it, but it would be a recommendation from them. It's not gonna be a recommendation from the mayor and council. The only thing we're trying to do is we're trying to get that building for public safety. We need a spot for water rescue, we need a spot for first aid, and we still wanna keep a spot for all the volunteers and all the life members that they can congregate there. And still have their home, and we feel that it's that important to have it for public safety. We've run a lot of things out of that building. We have a lot of training upstairs over the years, and I think that Borough would be remiss if we didn't try to get that building.
So everybody on the council agrees that that's not a valid statement? No awareness of that?
I have no idea, so.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Graham.
Yeah, back on first aid property and charitable donations. As a taxpayer, my viewpoint on the whole matter is that the Belmar First Aid Squad was formed by charitable donations, tax-deductible charitable donations. And right now, it's my understanding, if they liquidate, that any funds that are derived from the sale of property and so on would go for charitable donations. Why not and if the borough is to purchase or buy or make a charitable donation to the Belmar First Aid Squad, why wouldn't that be a tax eligible charitable donation? I did see that our governor, there again on another bill, I guess it was in 2018, I think they called it the SALT Charitable Donation Fund for municipalities, and that the Department of Community Affairs also provides a model for a municipality to set up a charitable fund, whereas then taxpayers would be able to get at least some tax benefit from money that goes into that fund or disbursements that go from that fund. Perhaps this deal with the Belmar First Aid Squad, in as much as it all involves charitable donations, that it be handled in such a manner so at least the Belmar taxpayer, when dealing with their state and federal income taxes, could take that deduction. I know even last, I guess in 2020, even if you didn't itemize your federal taxes, you were entitled to take, I don't know, a couple $100 a charitable deduction off your federal income taxes. And I don't think there's going to be any change to that going forward. That may be something to see whether the municipality, in dealing with this sort of situation, that at least the Belmar property taxpayers get some benefit out of it.
Patrick, would you have a comment on that?
I'm gonna have to honestly look into that, to see if it's possible, because I'm not entirely certain.
You can take a look, Department of Community Affairs, Local Government Services, they actually have a model ordinance that a municipality can adopt, fill in, and use that as for the formation of a charitable fund. See, some of these things, when you think about them in a way, taxpayers paying for something that's actually charitable. A first aid squad, there's probably no real obligation that the town provide first aid, but, if there's a fund established, and I know historically, when I made a donation to the Belmar First Aid Squad, I kept my canceled check, or my cash check, as evidence that I had made a charitable contribution. I don't see why it couldn't be done the same way with the municipality here, because it's my understanding that any money that they get is going to have to be distributed to another charitable organization. They're going to have to, in other words, the proceeds of the sale of the building and so on has to be, by law, according to Mr. Pringle, has to be distributed to another charitable organization.
Oh, yeah, I mean, when the first aid receives the monies.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because they're a 501(c), so yeah, you're correct, they can only donate to other charitable donations that way. But that's, that's up to what the first aid wants to do with it, since they're a private entity.
Well, I was going to say though, yes. However, No, it's not what they want to do with it. They have to, any proceeds that they receive from the sale of that property has to go to a 501c3 organization.
Right.
All the way around. This is charitable donation money.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct.
So why, the Belmar taxpayer though, if we're going to be making a payment to a 501c3 charitable organization, we should be entitled as taxpayers, that's our money. We're making a charitable donation.
I'll have to check that out because I don't know the answer to that, whether or not it's legal or whether or not it's permissible by the tax code.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, the Department of Community Affairs, Local Government Services, they actually have a model ordinance.
I have it written down.
Okay.
Yep, gonna go look at that. Look it up.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none, April.
Can I have a motion to close the public session and adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.